Good evening, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Sunday, December 28, 2014, around 8:13 in the evening in Billerica, Massachusetts. The sun's down and it's not that cold out. It's probably about 43 degrees, which is pretty mild for this time of night, this time of year. Some news to report: Seattle clinched the NFC West title and the number one seed in the NFC. All roads to the Super Bowl through the NFC go through CenturyLink Field in Seattle. And also, the Packers clinched the NFC North title and a first round bye. And the Carolina Panthers won the NFC South with a 7-8-1 record, beating the Atlanta Falcons, blowing them out. And Mike Smith is going to be looking for a new job tomorrow. He's probably going to get axed by the Falcons. In the AFC, the Broncos clinched the number 2 seed and a first round bye, and there's only one more NFL game left for the night and the season. The Bengals against the Steelers. Whoever wins this game gets the number 3 seed in the AFC. They get the AFC North title and the number 3 seed to play against the Baltimore Ravens, and the loser gets the first wild card and the number 5 seed in the AFC and face off against the Colts. Should be real interesting who wins that game tonight. And also, about 20 minutes ago, Scott Hansen, host of the NFL Red Zone, signed off for the last time for the season. He's going to be missed, but he'll be back before you know it. And that's about it on that. My third and final video blog of the night is about my personality profile. My personality profile is about WWE Hall of Famer Pat Patterson, the first Intercontinental Champion. Pat Patterson has had a long and illustrious career in the world of professional wrestling as a wrestler, as a booker, as a backstage official, as a ring announcer, and a announcer. He's done it all, Pat Patterson. Pat was born in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, under the name Pierre Clermont, and he wanted to become a priest when he was growing up. And he was an altar boy at his church he went to, but the priesthood says he would be too adventurous for a career as a priest. And then Pat Patterson went to be trained by professional wrestlers, by a guy named Paul Gerard. And in 1958, he made his professional wrestling debut in Montreal as Pretty Boy Pat Patterson. He wore red lipstick, pink tights, and was accompanied by his pet poodle. In Montreal in the 1960s, Pat went to the United States to wrestle in several regional territories, Championship Wrestling for Florida, Portland Wrestling, but he basically made his home wrestling base in the San Francisco territory, and he was in the San Francisco territory for almost 15 years as a top heel. His favorite finishing maneuver was the figure 4 leg lock and the atomic knee drop, and he teamed with crippler Ray Stevens there, and they were the Blonde Bombers, and then won so many regional titles in San Francisco. Also, Pat Patterson won 6 U.S. titles, the San Francisco version of the U.S. title, and he and Ray Stevens were a tag team for a few years, but Ray Stevens eventually did a babyface turn there, and they had a big feud in 1971. Ray Stevens left the San Francisco territory to go to the AWA, and the San Francisco territory was built around Pat Patterson as a major heel, and he had many tag team partners, including superstar Billy Graham, Pepper Gomez, Pedro Morales, Tony Garea, and a few others, and Rocky Johnson, and he won the San Francisco Tag Team Championship for many times. And when Pat Patterson was a heel during 1970 and 1971, he wore a mask, and he put a forearm object and delivered a headbutt. Around 1972 or so, Pat Patterson made a face turn in San Francisco, and he got real popular there, and so much popular. By 1977, Pat Patterson left the San Francisco territory, and 2 years later, the territory folded, and Pat made his Madison Square Garden debut in January of 1977, beating Baron Mikel Secluda. He eventually reunited with Ray the Crippler Stevens in the AWA, and in 1978, he and Ray Stevens held the AWA World Tag Team titles for a while. In January of 1979, Pat Patterson went to the WWF as a heel. Pat's manager was the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, and in June of 1979, Pat Patterson beat Ted DiBiase with a pair of brass knuckles on an edition of Championship Wrestling to win the WWF North American title. And eventually the WWF North American title got phased out, and Pat won the fictitious tournament in South America by beating Antonio Inoki to become the first WWE Intercontinental Championship. Pat Patterson had a big feud with Bob Backlund in 1979, the summer and fall months, and Pat Patterson was the only man to ever get 4 title shots at the WWE champion. In Madison Square Garden, he wrestled Bob Backlund 4 times. The culmination was in a steel cage match, and Bob Backlund won that. That steel cage match is on a couple of WWE DVDs. And eventually, Pat Patterson turned face in the WWE because his manager, the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, was running into some money problems, so he sold his contract to Pat Patterson's contract for $100,000 to Captain Louis Albano, and Pat Patterson hated Lou Albano on the storyline. He called him a fat slob and turned on him in a 6-man tag. It was Pat Patterson and Wild Samoans against Dominic DeNucci, Ivan Putski, and Larry Sabisco, and the Samoans turned on Pat Patterson, and Pat Patterson became a face, and he wrestled Lou Albano at a match in Madison Square Garden. Pat Patterson held the Intercontinental title until April 21st, 1980, when he lost to Ken Patera. Eventually, Pat Patterson started to get phased out of wrestling a lot, and he moved into the broadcast position with Vince McMahon doing color commentating on WWE Championship Wrestling and WWE All-Star Wrestling. But from time to time, Pat Patterson would get involved in storylines. He got involved in a storyline in 1981, I think March of 1981, when Sergeant Slaughter was doing the Cobra Clutch Challenge, and nobody could break the Cobra Clutch, but Pat Patterson came out of the booth and he challenged Sergeant Slaughter to get out of the Cobra, that he could escape it, and then Slaughter wouldn't let go, and they had several of the referees and wrestlers break him off, and they had a 2-match series at Madison Square Garden, which the second one was an alley street fight, which was one of the best matches in the WWE history. Up to that point was kind of the first hardcore match, Sergeant Slaughter against Pat Patterson. Then also later on in the year, Pat Patterson got attacked with a water pitcher by Angela King Kong Mosca after Pat Patterson was interviewing referee Dick Worley, who reversed the decision, who disqualified King Kong Mosca after he broke up he pulled his preliminary wrestler after several 2 counts, punishing him. They had a couple of matches around the horn in WWE territory. And in 1983, Pat Patterson interviewed Ivan Koloff, and Ivan Koloff was putting American wrestlers down, and then Ivan Koloff slapped Pat Patterson, and Pat Patterson got mad and he swore and stuff like that. They had a few matches around the circuit in WWE. By 1984, Pat Patterson was phased out of wrestling. He was replaced on WWE Championship Wrestling and All-Star Wrestling with Mean Gene Okerlund, but Pat Patterson moved into a backstage position in the WWE as an official, and he was also part of the booking committee of the WWE. And with Vince McMahon, he was kind of Vince McMahon's right-hand man, and for the next several years, Pat Patterson had so many concepts like the Royal Rumble, and he was a good finish man on how the match would end. In the mid 1980s, Pat Patterson became a color man on WWE broadcasts in French, and he had a talk show segment called La Brunch de Pat. Was a funny talk show where Pat Patterson would ask questions politely in English, but would mock his guests, usually faces, in French. I've seen some of these videos of his talk show segment. Very, very funny and stuff. And these are rare treats, and it shows that Pat's a great interviewer and stuff like that. He still showed his heel side. And throughout the 90s, Pat Patterson became a kind of a trusted individual backstage with his knowledge of booking and stuff. He had great storylines and stuff like that. 1996, he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And you would see Pat Patterson occasionally throughout this time when there were wrestlers fighting each other all over the place trying to break it up. He was one of the suits trying to break up fights. In 1998, Pat returned on screen in the WWE as one of Vince McMahon's stooges, along with Joe Briscoe, and they were kind of comic relief for Vince McMahon and stuff. Mr. McMahon, they did some funny stuff and everything. Kind of, you got to take the comic relief from that. They had kind of a feud with the Mean Street Posse, which was very funny. Pat Patterson and Joe Briscoe came out to Hulk Hogan's Real American theme song, which was hilarious. In 2000, they had Pat Patterson was congratulating Joe Briscoe when he won the Hardcore title against Crash Holly, and then when they had a celebration, Pat hit Joe Briscoe with the champagne bottle, and there was a referee. 1, 2, 3. Pat Patterson won the Hardcore title, and then they had a rematch in the King of the Ring, Pat Patterson against Joe Briscoe, and it was an evening gown match for the Hardcore title. Very, very funny. It was just comic relief and stuff, and it's hilarious. It was just getting Briscoe and Patterson some FaceTime out there to get the newer generation of the WWE fans who were there. Two legends, and shows that Pat Patterson has a comedy side and stuff like that, and he continues on to this day in the WWE as a creating consultant and stuff. He's a legend in the business, and he's a great mind for how the stuff with the booking and stuff like that, and he was a great wrestler and stuff, and he was a guy who created the Royal Rumble. And that's about it on that. I'll be back tomorrow, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. 3 more video blogs. The first video blog tomorrow will be about the top 10 greatest Chicago Cubs players of all time, and then later on will be about a video blog on Rick Martel, and I don't know what the third video blog is, but it could be a TV show, it could be anything. And don't forget, Facebook friends and YouTube followers, coming soon to these video blogs, more great stuff. And in January, I am going to review the first 13 WWE Royal Rumbles from 1988 through the year 2000. I'm going to review them. I'm going to tell how I felt about them and stuff like that. And then we're going to do It's time to rumble. It's time for the Royal Rumble. 13 of the first 13 ones will be reviewed. And sooner and later, Julie Broughton and Heidi Ridley Pratt video blogs. See you later, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. Good night.